Hello and welcome. We are here to talk about complexity curve in projects. Before I get into what that is, get some basic stuff out of the way. I'm using WebStorm as my IDE. This project is a TypeScript project. TypeScript's a programming language if you don't know what that is or don't care. And then LLM of choice is Claude right now. So basically, I have this project I built, vibe code style with Claude, where I told it, this is what I want, go code it for me. Just the project, it's just a debug tool. It lets me see the inner responses that it does. So like, if I tell it to go launch a sub agent, it lets me see the prompt it's sending it so I can debug it. It lets me see token counts for any response, so I can see if certain responses are, excuse me, filling up the context window much faster than it should. So, end of the day, just a debugging tool. I didn't want to have to code this, so this was a great opportunity of having something else code it for me. Because, debug tools don't get us anywhere other than help us get forward. So that's the gist of the project. I basically did what you usually do, tell Claude, go build this, now tweak this, this is wrong, blah, 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 blah. So I've iterated through changes with it on this code base. The code has obviously grown bigger, and I've hit a wall with it where I ask Claude to make changes, and it will either make the change and break something else, or it won't be able to make the change and thinks it made the change. This is a cut and dry indication that we've hit the quote-unquote complexity curve of a project. So what is that? And why is it not a surprise that I've run into it? Complexity curve of a project is when the project grows so big and the code is just becomes either too esoteric or there's just too much code and it's not clean and organized. That's when you get into it becoming harder and harder to change or maintain. And that's what has happened. We've just stacked changes on top of changes and not cared about structure. And at a certain point, it's very hard to reason what is the structure to make changes. So I've hit that wall. Why is it not a surprise that I hit this wall? This is not anything new to coders. Like LLMs are newish, and we have run into this for as long as coding has been alive. This is basic code hygiene, project management. And this is why good programmers are so anal retentive about code hygiene. Code hygiene and making sure things are structured properly is what protects us from this inevitability of the project is now just a garbage pile or a flaming garbage pile, whichever one you want to do. But essentially, LLM or Claude in general is struggling with making changes for me here. It means the code needs to be cleaned up, reorganized, or that's one of the reasons. So that's the high level what complexity curve is, where we're at with the project. Each project is unique. You'll run into this at different times. You might not run into it. Depends on your project. Depends how you structure it. Depends what you ask LLM and how you ask it. But every project, if you will run into this if you're not careful. So next video we'll talk about how to mitigate this without looking at the code, or how to help clean this up without looking at this code. But the last bit I wanted to go into is, why does this happen so much quicker with LLMs? Because like I said, this happens with coding projects, but this happens at a much slower scale, and that's because when you're directly coding, you're looking at the code. If you're a good programmer and you're making changes, you might come in here and say, wow, this is already bad. Before I make my changes, let's do some cleanup. If you're not, or if you're in a rush, you might say, I need to add to here. And you might just tack on. And that's what LLM does. It usually just tacks on and moves on with its day because its focus is getting the thing done, not getting it done right, unless you prompt it very explicitly. So that's basically it snowballs into a garbage pile, and that's what it is. So back to the point, it happens much faster with LLMs because, like I said, it's focused on getting the thing done. It's never focused on getting it done right. And there's ways to mitigate this even if you use LLMs, and it depends how you go about it. So, like I said, next video we'll go into how to mitigate it if you don't want to look at the code, but just since we're here, we'll talk about this very briefly. So if you want to mitigate this to begin with and you know code, this is kind of how you do it. Let's see, what do I want to look at? Let's say I want to take this display, let me copy this, and let's say I want to reorder the columns. There's two ways I can do this. I can find the columns in the code. Let's see, operation and details. Let's do another find for operation details. Operation and detail. There it is. Okay, here's my header. So there's two ways you can do this. If you're not looking at the code and I want to reorder these columns, I would have to write to Claude based on this. I wanna reorder the columns to, what do we got? Time, token. What was it? Yeah, token details. And if I send this to Claude, I'm basically saying, here's the view of it. I want you to figure out based off code where this is and make changes. So just right here, this is multiple semantic steps where it has to say, here's my request, here's what I gotta look for, and now I have to semantically convert this from English text to what I understand of the code. And Claude will then just go through the code. It might, in this case, it might have to actually go read code, but it's going to try to find the code and make this very step-by-step correlation of here's my task, here's what I want to do. It's a very indirect route to get to what you want. If I do it from the code perspective, I would say, let me copy this and do something like based on this file, I want to reorder the columns to blah, blah, blah. And depending on the request, I can select certain code, and by selecting certain code, it skips steps for Claude having to go look for it. Because here you can see it set my selection to Claude. So this is an example of a direct path to changes, and the difference here is if you're doing it from the focus of the code, Claude can still make terrible code, but it eliminates certain steps that might confuse it. If you go the non-code route and you go, here's what I see, change this, there's more steps, and that's when Claude's going to have to spend more processing power, and that's when it's going to start cutting corners. So if you look at code and you pay attention to the code as it builds up, you can mitigate some of this, one, by looking at the code and saying, Claude, this is bad code, don't proceed, go change it. But also you can save it some processing power, get it done faster. Not everybody can read code, that's fine. But going this direction means you suffer from complexity curve much faster because you're expecting Claude to go find code, then go change code, and get it done correctly. And that's going to give you different results. So that's the high level gist of it. Next video we'll go into you're in this situation, like I am in this situation. I need to fix it. I don't want to have to go fix it manually. How do I just tell Claude to go clean up for me? And that'll be the focus of next video. So hopefully this was informative.